Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician. Many times, many men are actually told to be strong and to deal with the ravages of manhood. But often in this country, mental death starts in the mind, which actually leads to physical death. When you think about some of the great famous people of the past, Donny Hathayway, a famous singer, was actually diagnosed with schizophrenia. And because schizophrenia went undiagnosed, or more or less he didn't get the proper treatment until later in his life, it actually led to a mental death. Milli Vanilli, the singer and the actress, the actor Milli Vanilli, he died of a mental death that actually led to a physical death. And over time, DMX, even though he died in the hospital, it started as a mental death. The psychopathology of a lot of men often go undiagnosed because for many reasons, men are actually said to actually deal with the pain and the suffering. And because of that, you begin to see a new movement of men like Brandon Marshall and The Rock and many other men that have actually dealt with anxiety and depression get treatment for it. And many times because many men suffer in silence and they like to resolve to deal with or talk about their mental health. The mental death for many men can be very ominous and dangerous as many men actually lead to suicide. We're going to talk about the variances as it relates to mental health. And I'm going to have a show with my sister from Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. And we're going to talk about the importance of shadow work. We're going to talk about the importance of male mental health. And we're going to look at through the lens of the bio, which is the body, psycho, which is the mind, social, which is the environment, but also the spiritual. And all those elements play a role in the interdimension of how the mind and the human spirit work. I want you to more or less take this show serious because mental health many times start in the mind, which is a mental death. And often when men go undiagnosed, they become a danger to themselves and others. I've said in the past that a hopeless man is a broken man, and a broken man is a dangerous man. I want you guys to enjoy this show by my dear friend, and I want you guys to ask yourself the question, are these topics necessary in this critical time in America? And I want you to remember this, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. Enjoy.
For the queen, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and booty walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kiss goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, dog. When God made you, boo, you know he showed out. Mahogany enchantress, blessings overflow now. Picture of success, seductive silhouettes on a spiritual quest. Manifest and be blessed. Mother, sister, auntie, tribe of Ashanti. Rocking your locks, I got a close crop blondie. The curse and the gift, uplift, apply pressure. Nothing like a black girl getting a shift together. Nothing like a black girl getting a shift together. Nothing like a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. This is a podcast about mental health and wellness, as well as self-empowerment for Black women. I'm your host, Ursula. I'm a transformational life coach and a mental health and wellness advocate. And each week, I promise to deliver relevant topics and resources that affect our community so that we can ignite the fire from within. All right, season 3 is still rolling. This is a bonus episode. And you all know I never, ever air on Sundays. But that goes to show you how much I wanted this particular episode to come on. But before I do all of that, we're going to do a little housekeeping. Make sure and check out my website, BlackGirlsGettingTheirShiftTogether.com. I have coaching packages. There's digital merch as well. And there's an event coming up. I'm going to post it on the social media. And we're going to get right into this. I have this wonderful guest named the Kosher Clinician. And we found each other in these YouTube streets. But before I start, let me just preface this by saying, and this is for anyone who can hear me. Yes, the title of this is Black Men Therapy Stagnation. It is not about male bashing whatsoever, especially not for the brothers. This is just part 1. Part 2 is coming up with therapist Sarita Yvonne, and we're going to have it from the female perspective. So the way I'm looking at it, it's about healing and coming together. There's enough divide between brothers and sisters. It's healing and coming together. So don't drop up in my inbox about male back. That is not the case. That's why I wanted a brother to come on, and he is a professional. This is what he does. He is a clinician. He is a therapist. So it's not just my opinion. I mean, we're getting it from the man right here. One of the men. Yeah. Right. So I just wanted to preface that. And so anybody, if you have any light bulb moments, something that just resonated with you, make sure and put some light bulb emojis in the comment section. Make sure when you come on and say hello to the lovely guest I have here, the Kosher Clinician. And if it's replay, just type replay in the comments. Let me know. All right. Housekeeping finished. The Kosher Clinician. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, young lady. I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be on your platform, to have this collaboration, because we are living in a time where things are very fragmented between Black men and Black women in the Black community. And unfortunately, because of that fragmentation, it's caused a chasm in the relationships between Black men and Black women, with marriage rates precipitously dropping and men not seeing the benefits of relationships for a myriad of reasons. But we'll talk about that as you narrate this great discussion.
Perfect. Well, a couple of questions that I wanted to know is, why did you choose the name the Kosher Clinician? Because when I hear kosher, and then I saw you, I was like, okay. And now I'm listening to a lot of your lives, and you're multi-layered. I know it has to be something very interesting.
Well, it is. It's in the esoteric. The word kosher comes from Hebrew. In Hebrew, kosher means complete. And so, I grew up in a traditional church, traditional Pentecostal Church of God in Christ type church. But, I've studied the Judeo-Christian fabric, or the Judeo-Christian roots. And so the Hebrew, the skiva, the 7 means complete. God rested. You should be resting today, but God rested on the 7th day after 6 days of rest. And so I tell men, Ursula, that there are 7 steps that a man must go through, Ursula, in order to become an optimized male. He must understand faith, family, finances, female psychology, world travel, politics, and male mental health or physical health. Once he can master all those core variants, then he will become optimized. And so my motto or my mantra is, if it's not 7, it's not kosher.
Yes.
If it's not kosher, it's not right. Because in Judaism, with the Levites, in order for something to be righteous, it had to be kosher. And so, that was a little catchphrase that I created. I need to get it copyrighted for these Negroes in these streets who's trying to steal my stuff, because
Yeah.
Because I try to be kosher in everything I do, even with my creativity. I love being organic. I want to be I don't like biting people's stuff. I know the leader turned the joke. I stole his thumbnail, but that's how I was inspired.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Look, when he said that, I was like, oh shit.
I didn't steal it per se. It actually, the way he formatted his thumbnail, I looked at it, and so Cosby had on a suit in his. He had on a regular shirt, but mine, he had like a black banner over his face, over his mouth. I had a banner over his eyes. Mine said prima facie, which means blind justice with the scale. So, I didn't copy it. I was inspired by it, but I didn't, do a duplicate, and say, okay.
That's the word you said. You like, I was inspired, but
right. Because
it
in
was
these YouTube
cool.
streets, all men are inspired. We all look at concepts and reflect a little bit. Some steal it right out and some just flip it. But it was all in jest. I love that brother. He's an awesome guy. And, he's kind. He's been an asset to my growth and channel.
Absolutely.
And I'm forever grateful for his kindness. He's a water sign like you too, so he's a Pisces. So y'all tend to be empaths.
Oh, really? Interesting. Right. Interesting. And that's how I found you. So if anybody is wondering, it was on the Lead Attorneys channel. Right. When you came on, oh my God, I was like, who the hell is this brother? I couldn't even type fast enough.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for the love. I appreciate that. That means
that's why I had to slide up in that DM real quick. I said, because people are gonna ask him to come up here. I said, let me get first in line. While you were talking to him, I had already slid up in that DM already.
You funny.
Oh, I'm dead serious. I am so serious.
No doubt. I appreciate that. Thank
you. Well, my platform is mental health and wellness advocacy. And especially for our community, because I too was that person that had a stigma attached to it. And I'm not anymore, obviously. But, mental health, just the awareness, it was such a mind shift for me, hence this platform. And when I saw a clinician on your name and then you were just spitting fire, I was like, I want this brother to come on and be inspired by our topic today. And it's okay. And sisters who are listening, because I have mostly female listeners, share this video with the men in your life. Young brothers, your grandfather, uncle, it doesn't matter. This is for everyone.
Right.
All right, let's get into this. Before we do, what made you want to become a therapist?
Well, Ursula, when I was a child around about 11 or 12, I knew I was going to be a mediator. I knew at some form I was going to be a counselor. I just didn't know to the capacity. And so, even younger, when I was around 7 or 8, I asked God to give me wisdom. If you think about Leos symbolize light. Light symbolize knowledge. And I've always wanted to impart knowledge to people because being a Leos love to heal. We're warm. We love to see people shine. So I always knew being the middle child, because middle children are problem solvers, that I was going to be some type of helper. I just never knew I would get to the level that I got to. But I started my journey off, Ursula, as a mental health correction officer. I got my associate's degree in law enforcement. I went to school to be a cop. Never actually did it, but I did do that. I did 7 years Department of Juvenile Justice. From there, I went to North Carolina Central, got my bachelor's in social work. Went back, got my license in special education to teach school, and then went back and got my master's from UNC Chapel Hill, the Tar Heels, that blue swag, and got my master's in clinical social work, because I knew that there was a need for mental health awareness and advocacy for Black men, because a lot of times therapists didn't really understand men issues based on their training. And so I wanted to add the therapeutic concept from a Black masculine perspective, where men are actually being heard. Now, a lot of times, anytime men speak, they assume, oh, you're bashing, or you hate Black women. No, we don't hate Black women. We love Black women. But we want cooperative sisters that are going to respect us and honor us as men, so that we can get our shift together and love and protect you all. But see, I tell our sisters a lot of times, Ursula, as I always say in my show, Teddy Pendergrass said it better than me. It's so good to love somebody and somebody to love you back. But if
Right.
those men are not getting that love, then they are more or less either aborting relationships or they are traveling abroad, dealing with, Afro-Latin sisters like you that have been trained in cultures and traditions that are more synonymous to what they're used to in the past from their mothers and their grandmothers and their great-grandmothers. Men need love. We need affirmation. We need healing. But
But what if they didn't see that growing up?
so what do you mean if they didn't see it? Explain. What do you mean by that?
Well, they want love. Is everyone I think has that innate sense of wanting and yearning love. But if they never had it.
Right. So right. I see your point. So there could be a toxic love or a love that's not more or less predicated on healthy relationships, and what they perceive to be love actually could be dysfunction based on what they perceive to be love. For some women, they think a man that's abusive means that he loves her, but it doesn't. He's toxic. and so it's based on your perception of love. Unfortunately, we don't have intact nuclear families like we did in the past. And no family is perfect. They had issues back then too. A lot of Black men actually went through trauma. I'm actually going to do a show at some point called Leave Mr. Alone, because a lot of Black men went through trauma, but they never got the proper healing. So what you see on the surface with Mr., you see this cantankerous, combative man, but Mr. probably went through trauma too. But we don't want to talk about that. We just tend to denigrate him, but we don't look at all the nuances that more or less mystically went through that caused him to have the psychopathology that he was exhibiting actually in that show.
That's interesting. And another motivation I've had of this show is some reality show that I have watched, and this particular male on the show, he loved, so to speak, with so much toxicity. Mm-hmm. And his partner stayed with him. She stayed with him. They were for 14 years. Mm-hmm. And that's how he grew up. He said he never saw that, which is, like I said, my motivation of having this show, so that people can recognize if something is toxic or not. But
right.
So
well, we tend to throw the word toxic around so much, Ursula. We do it out of happenstance, like we throw the word narcissistic around, or he's a narcissist. Anyone can have narcissistic traits, but they're not bona fide narcissistic personality disorder. All human beings can exhibit elements of mental illness without actually having a true diagnosis.
Absolutely.
But we tend to just throw it around, Ursula. Sometimes we misconstrue masculine men as being, he's a narcissist. But if you go in countries like Africa, even from your country, a lot of men are just dominant. They're just dominant masculine men, but it can be misconstrued. Oh, he's a narcissist. Actually, I had a lady called me on the Legal Attorney channel. That word, and I just laughed out, like whatever. But like I said, there definitely are a lot of barriers into our community that needs to be addressed, and I think women need to be open into listening. Yeah, and there is a section of sisters that are listening, but unfortunately, a lot of those sisters get chided by the women that say they want healthy relationships. Because listen, Ursula, masculine men will not capitulate to BS. They're just not going to. Now you can get a cream puff or a weaker man, he might do it, but a masculine dominant man, it'll never happen. It's not in our nature. Masculine men say what they mean and mean what they say. And I think we live in a world, Ursula, where a lot of our women are not used to it. When they see it, they don't know what to do. So they start labeling it out of fear.
So speaking of these different names that you had, when I was listening to the video that you had posted a couple months ago, I loved how you started off by saying a hopeless man is a broken man, and a broken man is a dangerous man.
Right.
What does that look like?
Well, I joked with you earlier. I said, you're a Cancer, so you definitely want to be hopeless and broken with a Cancer, because Cancer is the number one homicide in the zodiac. But we call them the zodiac killers. But a hopeless man, Ursula, basically is a man that doesn't have the proper recourse to deal with his emotions. Now, listen, there's a such thing called healthy coping. There's a such thing called unhealthy coping. And we have not created safe havens for men to deal with their pain. This is the Sunday edition, so let's talk about the prophet Jesus and not trying to push religion, But Jesus, when he went through his catharsis, found a resting place. It was solace. He went and he prayed and he talked to God. Many men don't have that tribal element or the the proper skills to emit those negative emotions that have impacted their schema. And because of that, a term that I created, Ursula, is normally forms called a schema affliction. You know, I took the term schema out of cognitive behavior therapy, which more or less predicates a fixated mindset. But an affliction, Ursula, comes from pain or fear. So it becomes a schema affliction. So therefore, a hopeless man is a broken man. He has no hope to admit those emotions. And a broken man is a dangerous man. And that goes back to what we were talking about, you know, it can be rampant promiscuity, alcoholism, domestic violence, because men have been told this to suck it up. And so anytime you have safe havens or these synthetic barbershops that a lot of men are doing now, this is actually therapy for a lot of men. It's like a group catharsis where men are allowed to share and admit their pain. And, you know, some people don't like it because they don't really understand it. But I keep telling women how men present to you in your face is totally different than what men say in private. And that's
You know,
right.
This is true.
Don't understand. They think, oh, but see, I'm just an OG. I just say what I believe in. If I got beef with you, I tell you to your face. Or if I got a problem with you, I'm gonna be a man and tell you. I'm not gonna lie to you because I just don't do that. I don't. To me, that's goofy. And so,
yeah, but that's not. I hate to say the word norm.
I know it's not the norm. You're right. It's not the norm. Right. Your husband. It's not the norm, but it's the norm for me because I'm a man of my own convictions. You know.
But would you say that you are an anomaly?
I think there are men like me. There are a lot of men like me, but they just don't operationalize their convictions. So I could be somewhat of an anomaly. I think it's a lot of men like me, but I think because of the pushback, that a lot of men just keep it to themselves. You know, but I'm just genuine. I think it's, you know, to me it's pretentious to tell you one thing to your face and not mean it. You know, I don't believe in lying to people. I don't see the need to.
Yeah, you're an anomaly too. Well, going back, I love what you said about the barbershops. You know, it just so happened I'm a council member. Shout out to the Confess Project. I know they'll be listening at some point, but it's a barbershop coalition that they train barbers to practice active listening skills.
Right.
So when a customer comes in, because you know how brothers chop it up, and it's such a positive organization. And matter of fact, I'm going to have to put their link in the show notes as well. But you touched on that, and I love how you said how men can use a safe place so that they can express how they feel authentically, correct?
No doubt, it has to be authentic. You know, it's called positive regard. You know, or what it's called your true self or authentic self. And so when you're in your authentic self, hopefully you get the positive regard that you need. And so you know, my platform has grown tremendously because, you know, a lot of men talk about things from a perspective, but see, I can inculcate it, Ursula, from the red pill perspective, but also from a therapeutic perspective. So that makes me more potent because my perspective is a culmination of the two. And I know how to infuse esoteric terms into that culmination. So, you know, I think I bring a great source of reason. I bring a great level of not only support but also help for a lot of our brothers, because, you know, a lot of times intellectualism, Miss Berger, Ursula, a lot of times intellectualism is not more or less, how can I say it? It's not more or less shined upon in a positive light. You know, intellectualism, it seems boring because it requires you to think. So when you have these kind of conversations, now a lot of people are like, whatever, because of the stigmatization of the therapeutic process.
Speaking of therapy, I definitely want to go down sort of the pill avenue. Let's go down the therapeutic avenue, which is why I love to have you on. Why are brothers so resistant to therapy?
Well, one, because of they don't really know what therapy is, and then it's the preconceived notion. Like my granddad used to say, if you get therapy, you're crazy as hell, and so they think therapy is a woman's thing too. So they just don't deal with it. They get stupid. I don't need a therapist. But when you more or less marinate in toxicity for so long, you tend to become an icon of that toxicity that you're trying to get rid of. It's almost like you're not aware of your own toxicity, you know. And so I think a lot of men just don't understand dysfunction is seen as normal, and they use unhealthy coping skills to deal with that dysfunction.
So what do some of those unhealthy coping skills look like? Just in case some people are listening, men are listening, or women want to relay it to the men in their lives, what does it look like?
Well, I think I said it in part earlier, but a lot of times men tend to isolate. They can isolate themselves from people. They can turn to self-medication, alcoholism, smoking weed, promiscuity, violence. Some can be domestic violence, hyperaggression, depression, overeating, undereating. It's a myriad on the spectrum of the mental health kaleidoscope. It can be a myriad of things, but those are some of the things or core elements that come to my mind when men are trying to learn healthy coping skills. And then sometimes they can pick up narcissistic traits where they're lying to women or impregnating women and keeping them moving because they just don't care because of the hurt that they went through. A lot of times, Ursula, men, when they love hard because love is not an emotion that we experience like women. Women, you guys experience emotions on a wave and a continuum. But the element of love for a man, when he's really in love, it goes back to the moniker. When a man falls, he literally falls in love because of that woman that he loved betrays him. It can be a detriment. That's when some men commit suicide because they fail instead of having an avenue outside of that fall. Now, I tell men to focus on their purpose. You can love a woman within reason, but you can never love her more than your purpose because if she decides to leave you or be with another man, you're hurt, but you'll be fine. You'll get over it because you have your purpose over the fickle notion of romanticism and love. Love is an emotion that comes and goes. It comes and goes. And so when you have your purpose always supersedes, love.
It'll supersede love?
Listen. Love itself, once again, is emotion. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever heard women say, if I ever got married again, I would marry for money? I'd never marry for love?
Yes.
Why do you think they say that?
Excuse me?
Why do you think they say that?
Been hurt in the past and probably blinded by love.
Right. So I'm not saying love is not important. Love definitely is important. It's very important, but it does not supersede a man's purpose. Love, see, when a man is on his purpose, he can give you the love that you want. But see, when he's not on his purpose, then he's more or less acquiescing to feelings instead of acquiescing to principle. Does that make sense? He's acquiescing to feelings instead of acquiescing to principles. Principles are fixed and solid. They don't change. Feelings do.
So it can't be fluid? I'm just curious. Or with it being fluid, is that where the
principles are not fluid. Principles are fixed. It is, but love sometimes can be fluid, but principles are not. So my point is, if I'm focused on my principles as a man, then I can continue to work on building my kingdom and my empire to at some point give you the love that you so desire and need. Most progressive and successful men, they'll tell a woman, you're not going to be number one in my life. You'll have a place in my life, but my purpose supersedes that. Because see, you got to understand with men lose a lot in society. They can lose their homes, they can lose their whatever. If they get with a woman that's not a woman of principle, she might say, oh, I don't love you anymore. No fault divorce has proved that. And so I don't love you anymore, so I'm going to divorce you. So now his whole world is shattered because he based his mindset based on the fickle notion of love instead of basing it on principles and purpose. Not saying you can't love because love is a part of inner relationships. It's part of it, but it does not supersede his purpose and his principles. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So, because I'm not a man. Right. I'm not trying to be one. So I don't have the mind of one. But what if a man was to ask you, well, what does my purpose and principle look like? Because there are a lot of us, men, women, doesn't matter what color. A lot of us to my opinion, a lot of us walk around with our eyes wide shut.
Right.
So how does that look if they ask you?
Well, your purpose is synonymous to principles. Your principles are your value systems. that more or less help spearhead you into that next dimension of your masculinity as a man. That's why most men in the past, Ursula, were very stoic. They didn't really show love. They were just stoic because they realized that they had a purpose that superseded emotions. And so look at your great granddad or your granddad. They were very stone faced. Some of it because of what they went through, but look, I ain't got time to be showing all that flowery stuff. I got to make this money. I got to take care of my family. And so a lot of times when you have your purpose is why God put you on this planet. And so when you're focused on your purpose, then you're doing God's work because you're getting to the next echelon of your progression. But if you're more or less focused on something like feelings, which is euphemistic, it goes away. Ask yourself the question: if how many of our women have been in relationships and they say they love that man, but then they fall in love with another man, then they fall in love with another man. But you're constantly falling in love with a person, but at the same time, that feeling comes and goes. But if I have my principles, which is my word, and it goes back to theology, if you believe in it, Jesus said heaven and earth would pass away, but my word would stand forever. And so because his word is his principle, it doesn't change regardless of life circumstance. When the winds of life come to beset him, he has a principle, which is his word. And so when a man has his word, he's able to stand the adversities of time. If this woman that says she loves me stay with me, then she's going to be blessed because I'm going to give her the world. We're going to build together. We're going to get our shift together. That's still the point. We're going to get our shift together. And we're going to love each other, and we're going to build a legacy.
Don't put that on the thumbnail with my shift. No,
no, I'm not going to do that.
I'm joking.
So he realized he has his focus and his purpose. So when a man is on his purpose, guess what? He can be the best version of himself, so that he can be the best version for you. Because if he's the best version for you, then you can get all of him. But you got to understand on the back end, you're going to benefit from him being on his purpose because he's going to leave a legacy. See, I always tell our women, Ursula, that in healthy relationships in the esoteric, right? The moon is the woman that reflects the sun. If the sun gets too close to the moon based on love, then you're going to burn the moon out. So at some point, the moon is going to run away from the sun because it's too close. But when the sun stays in its proximity and it more or less focuses on its purpose, which is to give light and heat and love to the moon, then the moon can reflect the glory of the sun because it's not too close to it. You ever dated a guy, he was always in your DM calling you every day? You got bored with that man. Why? Why would you get bored with a man always saying, baby, I love you, calling you every day? Because he's not on his purpose. By nature, you want to look up to a masculine man. You don't want a man chasing you behind you because you don't have respect for him. But when that man have healthy boundaries, which is his proxemics and which are his boundaries, then you have an abiding love for that man because that man is in his orbit. But at the same time, that man is on his purpose, which is to get life, light, and love. And therefore, you will reflect his glow, his glory, which is his glow. Women that are in love tend to glow. You ever seen a woman in love? She glows because she's been touched by the sun, which is a man, a good man at that.
So are you saying that if a brother goes to therapy, that could get him on that path? It's or at least somewhat of enlightenment?
No doubt. It definitely can. If he's with the right therapist, if he's having the right treatment model, and if he's willing to do the work, but also Ursula willing to do what's called the shallow work. The shallow work are those dark parts of his life that he's not aware of. But he must do the work in order to more or less get rid of all those barriers to his life.
I'm glad you said that. I swear to God, you're like in my head because I want to put this. While you were talking in that video, you had talked about shadow work or the Johari window,
right,
which I thought was extremely interesting.
Right.
So let's see if I can pull it up. And if you don't mind, because this was new. I've heard of shadow work, but I didn't know that there were different names for it.
Well, the Johari window actually mirrors that. Shadow work is a totally different concept. But the Johari window has some elements to shadow work. The known self, the private self, the public self, and the unknown self. So when you coalesce the two, right? Yeah, there you go. Right. the open self, the blind self, the hidden self, and the unknown self, information that neither others know about you. And the blind self, information about you that you don't know, but others know. So I would say those two quadrants are very essential. And
excuse me, brother. Do you mind going through these, starting with the open, and just to briefly explain, just to break it down?
Right.
Who've never heard of it?
Right. So in the Johari window, you have what's called the open self. That's the known self, and it's known to you, and it's also known to others. But then you have what's called the hidden self. That's information about you that you know, but others don't know. It's known to you, but it's unknown to others. But then you have the blind self. It's unknown to you, but it's known to others. Information that you know about yourself, but others don't know. But then you got the unknown self, and that's information that's unknown to you and unknown to others. And that's information that neither others know about yourself. And so a lot of times it's something called the unconscious pathology, where you're not aware of those unconscious motivations that are more or less besetting you. And it's crucial that you do the shallow work to find out why you're doing some of the things that you're doing.
So in that instance, let's see if I can get this off of here. Is when therapy will work, correct? As far as knowing about, that would be the thing that people will go to therapy to learn about that unknown self.
Right. So that's when you become more calibrated. That's when you begin to calibrate your mind. You start to break up what I call that fallow ground. In the gospel, fallow was ground that was hard. But in order to break up that fallow ground, to make the mind fertile, you must break it up like a farmer toiling the soil. And so when you toil that soil to break up the foulness of the mind, then therefore you become enlightened and you begin to see things for what it is, and you begin to grow and mature because you get the seed, which is knowledge. So a lot of times people have a brokenness in their mind. That's a schema. It's a fixated way of thinking. And until that schema become broken or more or less restructured or modified, they will continue in that negative pathology.
Wow. That's some deep stuff right there, sir. So you talked about why therapy is essential. In your video, I love that example you used, the analogy about got milk. Can you explain that?
Oh, right.
That was pretty dope.
Right. And I'm disappointed. That video should have been, like a 5-star video. I was mad because, the algorithm is weird. I thought that was one of my better videos. And so, it didn't get a lot of views, but it's good. It's good. So a lot of times milk is the fortification of the body. Therapy is the fortification of the mind. So when I said got milk, that was a commercial back in the day. I don't know how old you are. You look young, but
thank you. I'm 23. I'm 28 today.
Oh, you're 28 today. Okay. And so the commercial, Ursula, got milk. And so got milk was basically asking the question, have you drunk your milk today? Because milk is essential to the fortification of the bones. But I took it and flipped and said got therapy because therapy is essential to the fortification of the mind. And listen, therapy is not necessarily Eurocentric academic-based therapy. Therapy can also be faith. Faith can be a form of therapy if you know how to operationalize it correctly. But the thing about, empirical-based therapy, it tends to more or less highlight on 4 quadrants. That's the bio, psycho, social, and the spiritual. But the Bible actually talks about that because it said that man is body, soul, and spirit. So we're integrated beings. We're integrated. And so when one is augmented, you can have what's called a psychosomatic response. And so that's why it's so important for all to be balanced. If the mind is healthy, then the body will be healthy. If the body is healthy, then the mind will be healthy because we're integrated. But then
that's the alignment.
Yes, ma'am. Alignment. But then there are things outside of that, which is called the spirit. Now, a lot of times in clinical research, we look at things through the lens, what's called empirical, collaborative empiricism. We say, where's the evidence?
What is that?
So collaborative empiricism basically means when we come together and talk and share information, collaborate. Empiricism means science. But then there's something called the phenomenological argument that supersedes that empiricism, right? And so with that, it's a phenomenon that supersedes science, Carl Jung or Jungian psychology was more or less predicated on the phenomenological, which more or less deals with the esoteric.
Is that Carl Jung?
Carl Jung, right? Mm-hmm.
Jung, okay.
Right. You know, he was to like astral projection and all that stuff. So that's like hyper spiritual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So everything must be in balance. Back to point, everything must be in balance in order to have cohesion. When everything is in balance, then men can be happy. And I think the reason why men are going abroad or dating abroad or not dating at all, because in behavior psychology, needs drive behaviors. And so if you're not getting your needs met, then you can either develop counterproductive behaviors or more or less more stoic behaviors that can or may not be a detriment to yourself and those around you. So, yeah.
Interesting. You have about a couple of hearts from Linda Gamble. She dropped that. And everyone, I'm going to drop the link if you'd like to come on and ask the Kosher clinician any questions respectfully. I have no problem with you coming on. I love what you said, talking about the alignment and balancing. Is that what you mean when you said how in that video that you attract with what you are? Am I saying that right?
I don't know. I don't know what the video was. I would have to see it to contextualize it. I don't really know, but I do believe you attract what you are. Human beings operate on a vibration. The gospel said that the light of the mind is the soul. Or the window to the soul are the eyes. And so, based on what's inside your soul, that's what you're going to emit. There was a study done by a guy named Dr. Yorimoto, and it was a rice study, right? And so the rice that got love, the rice never got. The rice actually lived, or the rice was healthy. But the rice that was neglected became black, and then the rice that was yelled at actually became even worse. So my point is, life and death is in the power of the tongue, like the gospel say. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. And so when your energy is dark, just like we're energy, we're energy. We're energy. When God breathed life into man, it was called pneuma, which means the soul or the air. And so we're energy. And so when your energy is toxic, you can feel it. And so most men are attracted to feminine, genuine women, not fake. But a true feminine woman would mess a man up when she's genuinely feminine.
Why would it mess a man up?
Because they become because men and women, Ursula, are optimized to become synchronized. If you think about the union and the fusion of a man and woman when they're making love, they are optimized to be synchronized. So when he's getting that synchronicity from her femininity, he's at peace. It's like a melange, it's like a dance. And they're actually poetry in motion. And it's powerful. And it's something a lot of our women are missing. They want it. Women by nature want to be covered by a man. She can have degrees, she can be rich, she can have a nice house, she can have all of that. But women are made and designed to be synchronized with a man. When some say, oh, I don't need a man. Oh, yes, you do. You don't know you need one, but you do need one. You need a good one.
I believe that's trauma speaking with that. I don't need, that's just my opinion.
No, I agree with you.
I'm a clinician.
No. You're right. I agree with you 100%.
That comes from a place.
Right. Yes, ma'am. I think it comes from vicarious trauma. See, I did a show called Empowered to be Depowered. And you check that show out because she saw her mom go through trauma. So she became a subjugate or a mirror of the trauma that her mom went through. And some of it, Ursula, came out of rebellion. Listen, I need men. I would be a fool to say I don't need a man. I might not need him for love and sex, but I need him from utility. And so when women say, I don't need no man, yes, you do. You might not need him for a relationship, but I want to can I get raw?
It's Sunday, get raw. Wait, don't make me mad now. How raw are you gonna get?
Well, okay. Well, listen, I've seen you do shows about the female orgasm and stuff. So
okay, that way. Oh, yeah, it's Sunday. This is Sunday through Sunday. Here, it's
kosher. It's kosher, right?
Kosher. And unkosher is okay too. It's all right. We grown. Look, I'm 28. Go ahead.
Right. So just like the apparatus that she uses to please herself.
Yes.
which is a deal though. A man created that.
Right.
The house that she lives in, a man created that. You know, the gun that she uses, a man created. You know, the car she drives, mankind. I need mankind. So when you say you don't need a man, you do. You might not need him for sex and love, but you do. And even that apparatus gets old because it's not like human touch to stimulate that synapses in your mind. That's neuroscience. You know, I start my show by saying, Ursula, I got that fire for your mind. Fire for your mind is when the synapses and everything is in balance. The neurons, the synapses are coming together, and therefore you become enlightened. So I'm gonna drop fire for your mind, which will more or less open up your cognitions. And once those cognitions are more or less open, then you can see. So it's weird because, you know, I didn't know where it came from. I do it because I'm a Leo, fire for your mind. But then in the clinical work, fire for your mind. When you see my Kosher clinician banner, fire for your mind.
Yes.
You know, it basically means I'm about to drop that fire for your mind so you can see. And once you see, you can break that schema or that schema affliction that you're dealing with. And I didn't realize that I was actually speaking life to myself, or I was actually speaking something poetically. But once the mind is calibrated, the synapses, the neurons are connected. In neuroscience, your brain begins to grow. Think about this. They did a study about babies. Remember when we were in college, Ursula, they did a study with babies. The babies that were giving love, support, food, and shelter, that baby actually lived. But the baby that was only given food actually died. Jesus said that a man can't live by bread alone. He got to have the spirit to calibrate it all because we are integrated. We're integrated beings. He got to have all of it. If one is off kilter, then the other will die. And so a lot of our men and women are not getting the proper nutrition that they need as it relates to spirituality and therapy. That's why they are dying. They're not optimized. They're not optimized. The man must be optimized and the woman needs to be optimized in order to be synchronized. But we got a lot of desynchronous people coming into relationships. Instead of causing optimization, they're causing chaos.
Yes.
Chaos, right.
And you know, I agree because transparent moment, I've been that person.
Right.
I'm not proud of it.
Right.
And I've been that person for a long time.
Right.
So, but I didn't know. But you know, I hold myself to a higher standard now because I do know. And what I don't know, I'm still trying to learn. But it's just one traumatized person with another traumatized person. Like you said, I never thought of the word chaos, but it is true chaos.
It's chaos, right? It's due to brokenness. It's due to brokenness. And one time the church was a safe haven for the fortification of the soul. And the church always didn't get it right. You know, it didn't always.
They did not.
Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, you know, you can pray the way." No, you can't pray the way, sweetie. You need help.
You know, cousins don't want to go to therapy. It's just easy to pray. But I'm gonna stay away from the church aspect of it. The way I grew up. I
understand. I understand your position. I respect that.
Yeah, because the way I was raised, church was used as a weapon.
Right.
And it was spiritual abuse.
Right.
Hello, Vivid Life. She's stopping through to say hello to us.
Yeah, tell Vivid Life I said hello.
There she's so freaking cute.
Right. I think I said I was going to reach out to her at some point and do a show too. I think she's out of Richmond, but tell her I say hello.
Vivid Life, I got him first, sis. No, yeah, I'm actually going to reach out to her as well.
Right.
Yeah, but I had another note on here. Who was okay, so these are the notes that I wanted from the video you had when you were talking about doing shadow work and the stagnation with Black men and not going to therapy or going to some therapy. Can you explain what the existential crisis is? I wasn't understanding that, and how can it circle back to the therapy?
Okay, I'm gonna break it down for you. Right, that's excellent. So listen, so all human beings go through at least 7 or 8 stages of psychosocial development, according to Erickson. I'm at a stage in my life called generavity versus stagnation, right? So stagnation, generavity means you're actually generating your life outcomes that you so desire, meaning you're living your best life. So anywhere from 40 to 50, 39 to 50 is generavity. But stagnation means you're at a crisis or a nexus point in your life where you're not growing, you're just stagnant. So when you're stagnant, you have what's called an existentialist crisis. And it basically means, why am I living? What's my purpose for life? That's why I told you your purpose supersedes everything. What's my purpose? You're just existing like a rock. You haven't completed nothing. You ain't completed, excuse my language, a damn thing, but you're just existing. So you have an existentialist crisis. And so you do one thing, you sit back and you do the shallow work, you heal, and then you move forward, or you continue to mire in that stew of mediocrity. Do you see my point?
I do.
So when you begin to grow, when you begin to actualize that phase that you're in, you either become, you either grow, or you continue to become stagnated. Erickson talked about that. Generality.
You said Erickson?
Erickson. Generality versus stagnation. Because there are 8 stages of psychosocial development. Psycho, mind, social means how you're going forward. Psychosocial development, right.
Yeah, that hit me because when in the video you had said how people start having those feelings when they become a certain age, or if they're on their deathbed and now they're having all this regret.
Right. And see, people, I'm gonna do a show, you don't have to agree with everything K. Salmon say, but he made a valid point. He said that some will die alone. And so, it's unfortunate, but the last stage that Erickson talked about, it was called ego integrity. It's similar to what? Ego integrity. So ego integrity means I feel good about what I've left. Now I'm about to leave a legacy for my children. I'm about to cross over into the spirit world. And look, I get it. I know why I grew up in church. The application of theology is how you use it if you use it correctly and in balance. You're right. There was some church abuse. Some people did use the gospel to suppress, oppress, and to manipulate people. But that does not invalidate the tenets of theology. I think the book itself is a great book. But back to point. But then it's ego integrity, similar to what the Apostle Paul said. I've kept the faith, but now it's laid upon me a crown of life. He realized he had lived up to his purpose. His purpose was to proselytize the Gentiles about the mercies and the richness of God. So he was happy. It's time for me to cross over and see God. But despair says, Ursula, on my deathbed, damn, I haven't lived. I didn't fulfill my purpose, and now I'm broken. And before I cross over, I'm beginning to look over my life. And before I take my last breath, I can say to myself, I have not lived my life on purpose. And that's why I say a man's purpose supersedes the fickle emotion called love. Because, listen, those same emotions you can create again with another woman, but you can't create your purpose. I can fall in love with you, and we can break up, and I can fall in love with another woman. But if my purpose is still intact, then my mind is still intact. But if my purpose is not intact, then I'm not intact. Because we were all born with a purpose. And once that purpose has been manifest in the earth, then not only do you benefit, the world benefit.
Oof. That is a word. Someone, whoever's listening, drop a light bulb in the comment section for me, because I can't do it on this platform right here. That is some good stuff. That reminds me of, I was watching this video on Instagram, some little reel, and this lady was talking about 168. And she asked everybody, well, what is 168? So everybody's in the comments, and she's like, no. And she said 168 is how many hours are in a week. And what would you do if you had 1 week or 168 hours to live? Are you going to try to find that purpose? Or are you just still going to bumble around and I know I have this gift, I'm just going to just throw it back here and I'll get to it. And before you know it, you're 83 or 53 even. And I always believe spirit it's like a little kid who's tugging on your skirt or a pants, like because you're a brother, and it's just that nagging, and it's there, but now I get it. I see the light bulb moment when you're talking about finding your purpose, and sometimes I believe the purpose finds you. I think that can happen as well. But we have these healthy and unhealthy coping skills to mask it.
Right.
And what are you going to do in that? Just live your life like you're on hour 1 left.
Right.
I got to do that for myself or continue. I'm working on it.
Right. And it's a process, but you got to be aware of what's going on before you can actualize that process. You know, Maslow hierarchy of needs talked about love, protection, security, but then the last stage was self-actualization. And that's more of the esoteric. Some believe that the actualization of self is not the epigenesis to life, but in the Christian faith, they believe that the actualization of mankind as a man love and abiding love for God, because God is infallible. But that's another story. I'm giving you theological gems. I ain't gonna get y'all to take up a love offering because y'all gonna lose a video. Y'all talking about money.
I know, right? I should put that cash app up in here.
Tell the audience they can always cash out $7 small, because I put in work. Tell them they can cash out $7 small. But if they can't donate, tell them to help me get to 1,000. I'm almost there. I'm like the little Princess and the Frog with the girls say, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Tell them to go check my YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and we can get this show on the road, because I'm passionate. This is my purpose.
Yes.
To inspire sisters like you, to inspire the brotherhood. God gave it to me, and you said something very poignant. I always knew I had a gift, but it was so powerful. I used to sit on it because I was arrogant. I said, well, I'm not going to use this gift because most folks can't handle it. So I got big-headed. But then the Spirit of God came to me, and like the little kids used to say in church, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
That's right.
Because when you optimize the gift and the talent that God gave you, if you keep it to yourself, it benefits your ego. But if you give it to others, it benefits the world.
Whoa, hold on. What do you mean it benefits the ego?
Well, it's almost like taking gems and you're burying your treasures. Think about it. If I got a seed, right, and that seed could feed 1 million people, but I get selfish and I say, you know what, they are not worthy of that seed, then that seed will only benefit me and my ego. But if I plant that seed and that seed yields a harvest, then it benefits the world. It benefits the world. And so it's important, because when Christ came, he gave his best. He gave his best. He didn't give a part of himself, but he emptied himself. It's called the kenosis of God. He emptied himself and he gave light to the world. And so it's time for me to empty myself. This is just the beginning.
Ooh, does that mean you come back? Just think about it.
Well, no, what I mean by emptying myself, it means that I'm going to go forth. I got my foot on the pedal.
Yes.
And I want to inspire as many people as I can before I leave this planet. I just turned the big 5-0, and I've wasted some time. It was like yesterday, when I created my AOL account, and I was 34. I said, I got plenty of time. But now half of my life is over, and I'm getting closer to the grave, and it gets sad, because I have so much light to give to the world, and so I want to make sure I give my light to those that need it, and inspire as many people as I can, and those that are not worthy of that light, then I'm going to, just keep it to myself and keep giving to those that want it.
Absolutely. And, God bless you for having that platform. It's all about healing. That's how I see it. Right. And as you're talking, I realized that I knew I always had that something in me, but through childhood trauma and just dysfunction, I let other people put their foot on my gas pedal, and it definitely wasn't for my best interest. And then they would slam on the brake. I would allow them to slam on the brakes.
Right.
But right. I know goddamn better now.
Right.
And, I know better, so I challenge myself to do better.
Right.
Sure.
No doubt.
For sure. So, man, I can talk to you all day. I can't. So I had some other notes, but you were flowing. You went right through it. So, because I had on my notes about the schema affliction, you already went right into that.
Right. I was a teacher, Ursula. I was a teacher. I taught special ed. So, I'm able to scaffold knowledge through deductive reasoning. I know how to scaffold. You have to be like Jesus, he conveyed the richness of heaven by using teaching. Sometimes the esoteric is so complex that most people won't understand if you use esoteric terms. But you have to deconstruct the esoteric and give it to people in simple language so that they can understand it.
Absolutely.
So, right,
Make it palatable.
make it palatable. If I say it to the masses and they don't understand it, then it glorifies me. But if I say it so the world can understand it, then it glorifies the humanity. And that's what I would rather do. I'd rather glorify humanity. I'm ready. That's why I say I want my light to shine as brightly as it can, because many men, Ursula, have gone to the grave site, and the echoes of the pain of brokenness is in the grave. The grave holds the secret of many men and women, unfortunately, and they went to the grave broken, and nobody heard their pain. And so it's time for me to be the agitator, to agitate, to stir up that pain so that the world can hear it, so they no longer have to suffer in pain. I started the Manhood Chronicles where men can go, because it's a culmination. I call it art imitating life, or clinical art, or clinical science manifesting in the human art. So I started the Manhood Chronicles where men actually tell their story, unfiltered, unapologetically masculine. But then the kosher clinician is more or less flipping it from the clinical world, where I explore and assess pathologies, but more or less use art to amalgamate the concept so people can understand it. If I just come to you and just talk basic stuff and basic technical terms with mental health, most folks, they ain't gonna understand it. It's gonna be boring to them. But you got to know how to flex it in order to make it work. You got to flex it. Once you flex it, it makes sense. And so I had to flex it. And being the man that I am, I've always had to learn to think critically. You don't get to where I've gotten there if you can't think. You got to be a critical thinker. I'm very intentional, but I'm very critical in my analysis. I have to be in order to survive. No different than our ancestors. They had to be critical when they were hunting as hunters and gatherers. They had to be critical thinkers, because if you don't, you're not going to survive.
What are some of your highlights, your high points throughout your career with being a conduit and just spreading all this for brothers?
Well, I like I said, I grew up Church of God in Christ, grew up at Pentecostal holiness. So I taught Sunday school. I was a superintendent. And you're right, I saw some malfeasance even there. But, because of my brightness, some people are intimidated by it. I'm 6'5", 6'6" with shoes on. So I'm a big man.
Me too. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
When you see a big 6'5" man that's masculine, but at the same time he speaks with conviction and power,
right?
Most people are not used to it. It scares them because they're not used to it. They don't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And so I just always had a love to help people, just in my heart. I guess it's part of me being a Leo. Leos love to give light. And you think about the sun. The sun is warm. It's warm. It's very warm. And we love to give light, and we love to heal people. And so the highlight, I think the biggest highlight would be going to Carolina. I always wanted to be a Tar Heel. It doesn't get more prestigious than UNC Chapel Hill. And that was my greatest accomplishment. Walking across that stage, hearing the song called "In My Mind, I'm Going to Carolina." That was powerful. Almost
really?
Yeah, because Carolina is elite. Most people don't go to Carolina. You got to be on point to get in Carolina. That's an elite school.
I see.
Having the opportunity to go to UNC, you see me represent.
All day long, I see it.
Tar Heel flexing. Flexing. Tar Heel flex. But going to Carolina, that did it, and that did it. That really did it. And then also recently going to Brazil, that was a good trip, to see the world, see different angles from the world, from an anthropological perspective, and to see how people operate, that's like a highlight of my life as well. But I would say going to UNC Chapel Hill and actually going to North Carolina Central, because I always wanted to go there. Central is got a little bougie swag, it's an upscale black school. Some famous black progenitors went to North Carolina Central. A lot of Central has a rich history of intellectual blacks. So everything I put my hand to with God's grace, I've accomplished it. And I'm proud of myself, because a lot of people don't accomplish their dreams because they don't have the toughness to fight through it. But I'm very fixed. Leos are fixed, and we don't quit. We keep going.
Well, we're going to start wrapping it up. One last question before we officially wrap up. For any brother who's listening to this and they want to start therapy, what's one thing that they can do to get the process going or to take them out of that apprehension?
Right. So this is what I can do, Ursula. Tell them to come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. I can give what's called non-diagnostic consultations, meaning I'm not going to give them a clinical diagnosis, but I can give them non-diagnostic consultations where I listen to what they're saying and I give them practical outcomes based on what I know, and we can go from there. And so tell them come see me. They're not going to get a more refined therapist than me because most therapists don't have what I have. And I'm not saying it to be arrogant, but they just don't. They don't have my background. You know, I'm a scientist and I'm an artist. Most only understand the science of therapy. They don't understand the art. So tell them to come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And we can have a collaboration, and we can I can help them break that schema affliction.
I love it. You know, I will put that in the show notes, in the show description. I put your YouTube channel in there already, so you all make sure you just click on go in the show description and click on the link, and it'll take you directly to his YouTube homepage, and his email address is on there as well. But I will add that as soon as we finish this live for sure.
No doubt.
And I just want to tell you some notes that I took away from this: to make yourself available to the outcomes you want and to strive to reach the highest pinnacle of your mountain, whatever your mountain is.
Right.
You don't want to be on your deathbed in regret.
Right.
Oh, you got a thank you right here. And any parting words, sir?
That's a good one. You know, Sam Cooke made that song called "When I've Gone the Last Mile of the Way." And so in order for you to go the last mile of the way, you got to put in the work. And when you are on your deathbed, you can look back in time and say, I've kept the faith. And now it's laid upon me a crown of life because I put in the work to be the best version of myself. So I would say, as Sam Cooke said it, when I've gone the last mile of the way. And then, like the old folks would say, we don't understand now, but we understand better by. So those are my closing words.
Amazing. Simply amazing. The Kosher Clinician. Thank you so much for coming on. We made it happen, and I do not regret it. You know, like I said, Sunday is my day to play tennis and do just a bunch of foolishness.
Right.
But this was amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. And you all make sure go to my website and the BlackGirlsGettingTheirShiftTogether.com. That's in the show description as well. And you all have a good Sunday. Namaste. This has been pretty good. You all have a good weekend. And part 2 to this conversation is coming up Wednesday at 2 p.m. with Sarita Yvonne. She is also a therapist. So the women, we're going to get it too. So we're going to have, tonight we had the male perspective from a therapist's eyes, and Wednesday we have a female perspective from a female therapist's eyes. Fair is fair. That's how I see it. You all have a good evening.